Hello, it is my hope that you are doing well. I am coming to you again from my sitting room couch, and this is the Self Love series, episode 5. I hope that you've had a chance to go through the last 4 episodes, listen to the message, digest, keep reflecting on it, because remember, self love is a journey. Even as I share everything I'm sharing with you through this series, it's part of me going through the journey. Even writing a book about it is part of me going through the journey. And trust me, every day is a day of reflecting, thinking about, going back to certain scenarios, revisiting me and everything I am about in this journey of self love, because it is a real key to becoming everything you've ever wanted to be, and also everything you are created to become. Now let's dive into this fifth episode, which is about forgiving oneself and never giving up on ourselves. So the title of this episode is Forgive Yourself and Never Give Up on You. Forgive yourself and never give up on you. Is it easy or hard to forgive? I don't know what you think about that. I don't know what your situation is, but I find that some people find it hard to forgive others when they wrong them, and others find it hard to forgive themselves. I fall in the latter, the second category. The people who find it so hard to forgive themselves. But wait a minute. Correction. I fell in that category. I was part of that category, but I freed myself from it. How did I do that? It goes back to the same thing, the power of self love. I did that by loving myself enough to acknowledge that I'm imperfect. I am perfectly imperfect, and I'm only human, and I will make mistakes. And those mistakes need not define me. I had to get to a level where I tell myself, Wanjiru, I mean, you're only human. So the best thing you can do is learn from your mistakes and move on. And self-love is what helped me with this. Remember the vows? For richer, for poor, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, to have and to hold. These vows, loving myself to the point of, putting a ring on it and making those vows gets me to the mirror every day and reminding myself, Wanjiro Kaburu, yes, you did that. You feel horrible about it. I acknowledge it. I take responsibility. But I move to the stage of telling myself, I forgive you, but I need you to commit to doing better, to becoming better, to learning from this situation, this failure, this mistake, and becoming a better person, showing up in a better way for yourself and for the world. So yes, I am free, baby. I am free from sitting in and crying and beating myself up and staying in that moment. I am free from getting stuck on my error or on my mistake, because what can I do about something that has already happened? What can I change about something, an error, a mistake that I've already made? Because staying in that moment only robs me of the joy, of the strength, of the happiness I need to wake up, dress up, show up, and go out there and do the work. Do what I should be doing. As I keep saying in this series, in every episode, I say things and something knocks on me. Hey, Wanjiro, easier said than done. True. It's easier said than done. And maybe it's just my journey. I don't know. Maybe so many of you are okay or are very able to forgive yourselves and get out of a mistake, but it hasn't always been the same for me. And as I said about loving oneself, when I learned to love myself enough, which is a continuous journey, I was able to love others better, to be more respectful of them, to be more accommodative of them, to be more empathetic. Because this journey of imperfection teaches you, as imperfect as you are, others are too. As likely as you are to make a mistake, others are likely to make a mistake too. So, as you learn to love yourself enough to forgive you and move past it, you get to learn to love others better, forgive them when they make a mistake or they wrong you, and move past it. Still have relationships with them, still work with them, still build amazing things with them, because you're now at a level where you understand you're just human. You're perfectly imperfect. They are just human. They are just perfectly imperfect. And that takes me to a quote by Eugene Kennedy. There would be no need for love if perfection were possible. Love arises from our imperfection, from our being different and always in need of the forgiveness, encouragement, and that missing half of ourselves that we are searching for in order to complete ourselves. It's a never ending journey of searching ourselves, of trying to complete ourselves. And take note of this: searching ourselves and completing ourselves. Not the mistake a lot of us make to get into the space of others, especially in love relationships, where you imagine the other person will complete you. No, it is about acknowledging that you are imperfect, then learning to forgive yourself, to love yourself enough to call onto you, forgive yourself, and forge ahead with the realization that there's always that missing half. There is always that likelihood to say the wrong thing. There's always that likelihood to make a mistake. There's always that likelihood to fall down and fall badly. That acknowledgement helps you stay in a state of readiness or calling onto yourself to show up for you when that moment comes. When that moment comes when you're not able to operate at your optimum. When that moment comes when you feel too weak to fight, too weak to try, too weak to keep going. When that moment comes that you have done this wrong thing that is making your head so heavy to even get up from the pillow so that you can wake up, dress up, and show up for the world. You remind yourself that it is that imperfection that makes you human. And what do you need to do in that moment? You need to wake up. Remind yourself that you took you for richer, for poor, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, to have and to hold. And then you look yourself in the mirror. You point the mistake out, but you still remind yourself that you love you. You are not defined by that mistake. You love you, you forgive you, but you commit to doing better. This kind of realization and practice and building on taking moments, being deliberate about all these things arose in me that peace, the realization and taking moments to, yes, acknowledge, take responsibility, but the love in me just helps me, allows me to forgive myself so that I can forge ahead. But it also does something bigger. It gets me into a conversation with myself to recommit, to remind myself of my commitment. And in the next episode, sixth episode of this series, we're going to talk about committing to you. Yeah, because that's the other stage. You can't forgive yourself and then stay in the state of mistake. You also can't live without anything you've committed yourself towards. And that's why it's a process of knowing you, loving you, letting go, forgiving you, and then what? What is it that you are letting go for? Where are you heading? So we'll handle that in episode 6. But forgiveness just freed me to be able now to revisit the commitments I've made to self without the guilt, without being weighed down. It enabled me to give me another chance over and over again, just as I give others a chance. I give myself a chance over and over again. It's like renewing a contract with myself. Maybe it is abruptly come to an end because of this huge thing, huge mistake, huge error, huge stumbling block, either put on my way by people, by things, or by myself. I give myself a chance. So it doesn't matter if you are suffering from a mistake you did by yourself. It doesn't matter if you're the one who got yourself in that ditch in the first place. What matters is you never give up on you. Because remember, your own rescue, as much as you might have everyone loving you around you and saying the right things, until you realize you are the best person to rescue you, you will stay in that. So loving yourself enough to forgive you helps you also realize that you got to give yourself another chance after another. It helps you never give up on you, regardless if you are the one who put yourself in that horrible situation. How many know the story of Tiger Woods? But you know Tiger Woods. Well, it's an household name. By household, I mean wild household name. I'm going to read his story for you as I captured it in my book. I could not help but capture it in the part where I was trying to talk about never giving up on you. Here it goes. Tiger Woods is a world golf champion, and in 2019, Tiger Woods won his 5th Masters in golf in a major comeback. Mark that. This was after 15 years of struggle and loss. In 2004, after a 264-week streak, he lost his world number 1 golf ranking to Vijay Singh. He won 6 PGA Tour events in 2005 and reclaimed number 1 in 2007 after losing his father. He struggled to find his form and then ruptured his ACL. He got a knee operation in 2009 and was out of the game for a while. He got into an accident, and in the same year, the media brought out into the open his marital problems. His wife divorced him in 2010 due to his multiple affairs, and he lost his major sponsors, costing $22 million in lost endorsements and costing $12 billion in shareholder losses. He went through sex addiction clinic and was quoted saying, "I am deeply aware of the disappointment and hurt that my infidelity has caused to so many people, most of all my wife and children. I want to say again to everyone that I am profoundly sorry and that I ask for forgiveness." In 2015, after unsuccessfully trying a comeback for 5 years, Tiger Woods got several surgeries that crippled him to an extent he couldn't walk. In 2016, the pain was too much that he was being helped in and out of bed, and his focus was on ending the pain, on living again and not getting back to the golf course. In 2017, While still undergoing therapy from another surgery, he got arrested for suspended DUI and served a 12 months community service sentence. In 2018, determined to make a comeback after his spine healed, Tiger Woods made his first appearance after starting to learn the game again from scratch. And in 2019, 14 years after his last Masters win and a year after returning to the game, Tiger won the Masters for the fifth time. I'm looking at things like taking responsibility, hence apologizing. Then looking at things like him getting himself into the mess. Then I'm also looking at things like when he got to a point where he just wants to leave and not really to get to the golf course. But also, he started to learn the game again. Remember when we said getting to know who you are and not letting yourself exist without it? Remember when we said you love yourself enough to not want to just exist, to just not want to live and just die? Loving yourself enough to do what you love. Loving yourself enough to step out there in your imperfection. Loving yourself enough to forgive yourself for your mistakes. Give yourself a chance after another. Never give up on yourself. Loving yourself enough to try again and again. After 14 years, through a series of mistakes that had consequences, Tiger recommitted to start learning the game again. And in a year, he won the prize. I don't think it was about winning the prize. I think it was about reminding himself who he really was. It was about bouncing back. It was about calling himself for a meeting and telling himself, Tiger, this is who you are. This is what you're meant to do. You got to get back to that cause at all costs. And that is what I am telling you and me. You got to gather the strength to acknowledge, yes, take responsibility, yes, but forgive yourself, pick yourself up, and come back. The world is waiting for that comeback. And if you haven't gotten to a level where you were there and you need to come back, the world is waiting on you to realize who you really are, what you're capable of doing. Then love yourself enough to not sit with that in your sitting room, in your office, wherever, but to bring it out. To love yourself enough to forgive the mistakes or the thoughts or the pains. Let go of the pain, tears, disappointment, self-doubt, and all the things that might be holding you back, and come out of the web. Get out and show the world, or light the world with light that you are. You special, your own special kind of light. So yes, I found that forgiveness, or lack of for that matter, lack of forgiving myself, deny or not being able to forgive me, kept me stuck. And I chose not to stay in that space anymore. I usually tell myself I've even forgiven myself already for the mistakes I'm yet to make. And that does not mean I encourage mistakes. I don't wake up and look forward to making mistakes so that I forgive myself. No, I hate mistakes. I feel terrible. I still feel horrible and terrible when I make a mistake. But what I don't allow myself to do is stay in the moment of the mistake. I acknowledge it. I take responsibility and do what needs to be done to correct the mistake. But I forgive myself and snap out of it and step out to continue being, doing, and becoming. And that is my wish for all of us. We are human beings. Remember, I've emphasized again and again, we are perfectly imperfect. We're imperfect beings, feeble, weak. We will make mistakes. So, what will you do when you make a mistake? My call to you is gather the strength, the grace. You master, you call upon the love that you have for yourself. You recite those vows, remind yourself. These are the moments you need to show up for yourself, for poor, for worse, in sickness. And then you hold and you walk, you move past it. May you learn to just pause but not stop moving. You crawl when you can't walk when you can't run when you can't spread your wings and soar. But the biggest mistake you can do is give up on yourself and stop moving. I believe you have what it takes. You have what it takes. You just need to be deliberate about it. You need to get to that space, and only you can get you there. So it is my hope that you get in that space where you learn, you know who you are. You get to love that person with all the scars and imperfections. You get to learn to forgive that person and let go of any stumbling block, even if those stumbling blocks are versions of yourself. And then you commit to never give up on you and to always move past your mistakes. In the next episode, we are going to talk about committing to you. Episode 6 of the Self-Love series. For now, I hope you take moments to get to understand the power there is in forgiveness. The power, the doors, the comeback that is waiting for you if only you can love yourself enough to cut yourself some slack, to give yourself a chance again and again, to forgive yourself and never ever give up on you. Bye-bye.